Patriots, Eric Corcoran here, Businesses for Liberty. I love these conversations because patriots across this country love their country, they love God, and they love liberty. And that's why we do this. And I am joined today by Matthew Logan with Affinity 24. I got referred to him by my good buddy, Rainier Ray. So Rainier, if you're watching this later, thank you. He was my high school friend. We did street witnessing together, crazy adventures, Eric Corcoran and Rainier Von Ray. But here we are today, me and Matthew Logan. Matthew, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me, Eric. I'm glad to be here.
And it's funny because we're 3 hours in difference. So it's like probably light over there. It's dark here. And, that's the great thing from the sea to shining sea. We're standing for liberty. And let me ask you this first question to start this off the right way. Why are you, Matthew Logan, a patriot?
Two reasons. I remember those initial questions you asked us when we joined Business for Liberty. First and foremost, I think it comes down to the commandment of Christ to us as believers. He says these are the two greatest commandments: to love God and to love neighbor. Besides these two things, there is no greater commandment. And when Christ gives that commandment, it's a direct reference to the 10 Commandments, because the first 4 are directly how we ought to love God, and the following 6 are how we ought to love neighbor. And if we have a love for God, we will by nature have a love for neighbor. And I think that's the most important thing. So in terms of patriotism, I love my neighbor by showing them the truth and by telling them the truth. And us as a business, and me as myself as an American citizen, I desire for God's truth to prevail in a society, and a desire for things like pro-life, pro-liberty, pro-freedom, basic liberties that we are given, not because we're American citizens, but truly liberties we're given as a byproduct of being created beings of God, these intrinsic values we have as human beings. So being able to support those things and have a love for neighbors, to be able to share that love and share that truth to other people, through the gospel message and through business practices. So I would say I'm patriot because it's my calling as a believer to love neighbor. And the best way I can love my neighbor is by being an example of the born again believer I've been called to be by Christ. And that's through my actions, through my daily life. I'm not going to love neighbor by lying to them. I'm not going to love neighbor by catering to non-truths. I'm going to be a great neighbor and a great patriot by loving neighbor, by demonstrating the love of Christ and the truth that comes from his infallible word. So that's my best way I can answer that question. Is for why I'm a patriot is because there has to be a love for God and love for neighbor. And that standard transcends mankind, but ultimately comes down to here in America as an American citizen and as a entrepreneur pursuing business with my family's company here. But really, that would be the best way I can answer that question.
Absolutely. Well, there was a lot of Jesus in that answer, and I'm so proud to hear that. I'm a pastor's son, and a little bit about my background coming to America because of Calvary Chapel and Chuck Smith. And it's just amazing how, if you really look at Matthew 6:33, seek him first and his righteousness, and all other things will be added to you. That is not a complicated statement, but we've made it complicated by all the worries of the world and, pleasing people, not pleasing God, pleasing people. And then we don't stand for liberty. We don't stand for these things because we're so about people pleasing. And I would get into a whole rant right now about churches acting like businesses, but I won't. But I am for patriot pastors along with patriot business owners. So let me ask you this. So our kind of, model, beliefs are we're pro-life, pro-liberty, pro-history, pro-Second Amendment, and America first. What's your reaction when I first told you that?
I was thankful, I think, more than anything. I think obviously right now in society, we've had I think America's been a blessed country for a long time because we've upheld those values. We've upheld values that are consistent with an objective standard of what is true. And I think obviously we can see in society now, as time has progressed, we've fallen away from those values, and we begin to fall away from objective truth and objective values that cannot be shaken. We begin to see the fall of society, and it's not a foreign enemy. It's not someone who comes out from within to take over. It's something that happens within and spreads outward. And I think that's what you've seen. You've seen the attack on the nuclear family. You've seen the attack on life. You've seen the attack on just basic values. So when you guys say you guys are pro-life, we love that because we're all made in God's image, and life is intrinsically valuable because of that very reason. When you guys say you're pro-history, this kind of comes back to the previous answer. We love truth. It's the truth that sets us free, right? If we don't have a love for truth, then we're not going to have a love for history, because history tells us the truth. You can't change history. You can't change what has taken place. We learn from history. We learn from that truth. That's in scripture, and that's in our history as a nation since 1776. So, yes, I think the first emotion I experienced when Rainier made this connection, we had that first conversation. You gave me your Trump impression. First right. experience that I felt was thankfulness for fellowship, thankfulness for community. Hebrews 10, I believe 24 to 25, so do not neglect the gathering saints, but build up one another in love and good works, and having that fellowship of like-minded individuals grounded in truth is something we need. It's not just something I would desire and want as a believer, but something I need. It's something to consistently keep me grounded in what is true. So yeah, I think first and foremost, the biggest reaction was just thankfulness for what you guys are able to provide for us as business owners, as believers, and American citizens who love their country. Yeah, I think thankfulness would be the best way, the best answer for that.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to tell everyone too, I'm so proud that Matthew is a member of Businesses for Liberty. And for those of you who said to me, oh, Eric, you're just in South Carolina. No. Matthew shows you right here, all the way over in California, we're building this movement. And we want people in every state. The vision for Businesses for Liberty, in case you wondered, we want to be in every state in the country. We want people to be proud, whether they're in Alaska, they're in Texas, or in South Carolina, they're in California, because this country is worth fighting for. And, a lot of people I know are angry about elections and all that. Let me tell you, you can vote every day. Vote with your dollars. Your dollars are a way of voting. And I am tired of voting for the left. Aren't you? Aren't you tired of going in mindlessly to places and buying? And then you find out that they're funding Planned Parenthood. They're funding all of these terrible organizations. I'm done with it. I hope you are too. And that's why I'm thankful for guys like Matthew. Yes, in a liberal state, but we got to fight in every state. And I thank God for Rainier Ray. Rainier's fighting over there as well in the ministry realm. So let me ask you this, Matthew. Explain in the most basic way, what is Affinity 24? What is it that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So Affinity 24, we're a family-owned and operated company out here in Tustin, California. What we provide, well, first off, the business was founded originally as cutting-edge bank card services, and that tax ID cutting-edge bank service is still open. We offer the same solutions, but basically it was founded by my father and my grandmother. She went to be with the Lord last December, but she, as well as my dad, started something to be able to provide processing solutions for small business owners. It really doesn't have to just be small businesses. It can be, small, medium-sized, even big businesses. Affinity 24, specifically, this company was founded in 2014. Same ownership, same office building, everything, to answer the need in the industry for credit card fraud, basically to provide secure payment solutions, whether it's on a retail basis, an online e-commerce basis, if someone's running transactions via a donation page, if they're a nonprofit, or if they're running transactions like a dental practice or a law office, and they want to just take sales through an online dashboard and invoice clients that way and have them take payments that way. We want to be able to provide business owners with the ability to have a payment solution that's secure, that protects their transactions from fraud. In at that time, a industry that was very expansive with credit card fraud. So right around the time when credit cards had the new chip readers in it. Oops, apologize, I'm getting a call. Hold on here.
That happens to me all the time when I'm doing interviews or.
I know, right? Perfect timing. I have my phone connected to my laptop. But basically just providing secure payment solutions for business owners. And not just that, being able to give them not just an ability to take payments, but really figure out what do they do as a business? How do they take payments? What does the sale process look like them from contacting a customer to getting the customer in their door to them buying merchandise, and then to actually continuously marketing and messaging that customer so that they can retain business, rather than just being a payment provider. We want to be able to actually give these business owners solutions that actually fit their business need, whether it's through loyalty programs, through QuickBooks integrations or online accounting integrations, whatever it may be, to be able to give them more value outside of just processing payments. So that's in the quickest way what Affinity 24 does.
That's great. So I know that you said your dad and your grandmother. So what made Matthew Logan, though? I mean, there's plenty of sons who don't end up doing it. So what made you go, this is for me too?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I got my brother right here. If I can slide him over real quick. He's right over
brother.
there. That's Christopher. So we're not just family, owned and operated. We're kind of family run as well. So my brother's here. My older brother, Austin, he wasn't this office. He actually moved to Colorado. So he's working in Colorado, another liberal state, and trying to do what we do out there as well. And then we've had people who are not part of the family. My mom sells for us on an independent basis. But people who are not part of the family, they're like family to us because they've been within the company for so long. We've had Kelly, who, I mean, she does everything. She's awesome. She's been with us for 20 plus years. We have Lisa, who does our pricing and our customer service relations. She has been here for 7+ years now. We have Kennard, who takes care of a lot of our security and our PCI compliance. So if it's not just the family, it's the people here who are like family, people I've known my entire life. So for me personally, I grew up around the office. I grew up knowing these people, and kind of knew the industry just because of what my dad would always talk about. And after college, I played soccer in college. I didn't really have time to get a full-time job. So what I would do is me and my brother would actually go and sell for my dad to earn some income so that we can use on a part-time basis while we're at school. And then when we ended up graduating, nothing made more sense. I got my degree in accounting. My dad needed help with cleaning up his books, so I helped him out with that. So it was kind of project to project to finally get into a position where I can understand the whole scope of the company and help out in any way I can. Because truthfully, my brother would probably attest to this as well. We love our parents. We love just what God has allowed us to do and how He provided for us through this business. And we want to be able to serve my dad and my mother in any way possible. And that comes back to the whole aspect of being able to be servants to one another through the gospel call. So me, I love my dad. I want to be able to serve him in any way I can and help him out in any way I can. So this is just one of those many things, many ways I can do that. So.
Amen. I'm going to call this next segment bragging for liberty. So I'll explain. I think it's really cool to hear the victories a business like yours has had. How many states are you in? Roughly how many businesses have you helped? Give us some numbers so people can get a feel for what you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a sticky note on my desk of the states that we're not in. We're currently in 41 actively states. We can service any state nationwide. So if you own a business in any of the 50 states, potentially Puerto Rico and other U.S. owned territories as well. But currently there's only 9 states we're not in. Of that, we have about actively a little over 1,000 active clients that we service on a month-to-month basis. So those just business owners who have a business and they're selling and taking credit cards as a form of payment. Outside of that, I mean, short numbers, we process north of $20 million a month for business owners, north of 100,000 transactions a month. So we're small office, small and operated, but we have a decent splash in the industry, and we're trying to help as many people as possible. But yeah, those are like the quick numbers for you.
That's awesome. Well, at the very beginning, I talked about how tired I am of supporting the left indirectly without even thinking about it. What's your argument to people about, well, Matthew, I love what you're doing, but I got to trust the big names. I'm used to this provider. What do you say to them about what you offer and what you're supporting as opposed to the woke artists?
Exactly. So I think one of the biggest thing is just being educated on what these major companies support and what we stand for as a biblically sound and a Christian run company. So you have, let's just take the major competitors out there. You have Square, you have Stripe, you have PayPal. When we support those businesses with our dollars, what do they then take our dollars and then support after the fact? You can always trail and track a money trail for anybody, and you can see where the money goes. With PayPal, one of the biggest things, and with Square, one of the biggest things is they're a big supporter of Planned Parenthood. They're a big supporter of the pro-choice movement. And for us, as especially in the nonprofit Christian run realm, where we have these conversations with people, is having them understand not so much a savings aspect, but of course we guarantee we can find a way to save people money on their rates. That's not what we're mainly interested in. Those kind of conversations. We sell from more of a value-based perspective. So what do you value as a business, and where do you want your dollar going towards? We give a portion of our income back to our church that we attend locally, but also Blue Letter Bible is another biblical organization that we support on a monthly basis. I love that's a great resource. So shout out to Blue Letter Bible. I use them all the time to study the Greek. But it's really the conversation of values. So if you're using Square or using PayPal for your donation page as a church, what does that say about how we really answer the call of stewardship of, do I know where my money's going? Do I know where my funds are going, or who I'm giving my business to? When PayPal takes our money, takes the fees that they collect on those sales from your donors, to then taking that money and giving it towards organizations like Planned Parenthood and just non-biblically supported, left-leaning organizations that, of course, we wouldn't want anybody on our perspective to go ahead and support. So it's really about that values, understanding for them, where's that money trail going, who are they supporting when they work with those companies, because your dollar spent there is then translated into their dollar spent elsewhere. And those companies elsewhere are supporting those organizations that we can't on any biblical basis support.
That's great. That is fantastic. Well, thank God for that, because my goodness, when it comes to the legal world, the financial world, there's just so much to be wary of, right? There's so many con artists. People are just so, scared to death sometimes of what is going on online, like what in the world is happening, with like the PayPals. My mom had a situation months ago where she was scammed out of a couple $1,000s, and I was just like, wow, I can't believe that happened.
Yeah, and on that point, I don't know if you even heard about this. Venmo is owned by PayPal. They received some major backlash on this, but a lot of people on the Republican conservative, political commentary world, like Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk, those kind of people, they were commenting on this. Venmo and PayPal were passed a bylaw in their service agreements that if they deemed anything that you did as basically that violated their terms and agreements, they could fine you a couple $1,000s for processing payments for services that they may or may not have agreed with. So it's a very vague and gray area. So there was business owners that were getting fined just from operating businesses that were not truly in alignment of the values that PayPal supported. So that was a big issue a couple months ago. I think that was back in September. But yeah, stuff like that. And that's where really the conversation comes down to, is not just from a fiscal basis, but more so just an education of what is going on in the industry outside of the actual business practices. Well, what are the values that are being supported in this industry? So, and how can we as a small business, abstain from supporting those left-run organizations? So
I'm going to ask a very basic question, because I think it's really important to cover all this appropriately. Let's just say I own a little cafe, okay, and I call up and say, hey, Matthew, how can you help me? How would you start off that basic conversation with helping them with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I would ask, if it's a cafe or a coffee shop, would be, what are they using currently? Majority of people in that position would be using a product similar to, my father in the background right there.
Oh, great. We're getting the whole family.
The whole family's getting it. So they'll be using a platform similar to probably like Square, where they can run sales. So first, the conversation I would talk to them about is what do they like about the system? What don't they like? Is there things that you're using with Square that help the business? There's the things that you wish it could do, but it's not currently doing. So when it comes to the cafe, if you're a small business owner, I want to be able to answer questions like, well, what are you doing for your employee management? How are you tracking your hours for clocking in and out, and then ultimately getting that to payroll? How do you manage your excuse me, your inventory? Do you have anyone who's updating your system with new pricing, with inventory counts, whatever it may be, to keep track of things from a retail basis? And then the next thing would be especially for a coffee shop or a cafe. What are you doing for loyalty? How do you retain your customers? When a customer comes into the store, can they earn points on their purchase for every dollar they spent, so they can generate loyalty with that business, earn points, and then spend those points at that business to redeem, dollars off, percentage discounts off, or a free muffin, or whatever it may be. These are all things we can actually set up in our point of sale systems to actually help the business not only save money, but actually grow their bottom lines and actually generate more revenue. And that's done through our point of sale system apps. So that's the first conversation. And then next would be, for me, so I want to provide the value up front rather than just being another credit card processing company that's going to say, oh, I'll save you money. Let me see your statements. So I want to provide the value first. And then when these things start to make sense, they can see like, oh, I can set up gift cards on my point of sale system. I can set up that loyalty program. I can actually text my customers a voucher to come in and redeem that 5% on voucher. So once I get that value established, then I talk about the savings with finances. A lot of times, and I'll use Square as an example, a lot of times these small business owners are using Square because it's a very simple setup, a very simple structure. They know I just get billed 2.6% plus 10 cents every single transaction. But what I try to help them understand is that setup is good up to a certain point. If you're a business owner and you're processing more than, let's say, $3,000 or $4,000 a month, let's say you're doing $10,000 a month. If you're a coffee shop and you're processing credit cards and debit cards, the majority of your sales are going to be debit cards and personal credit cards. Mm-hmm. Those type of credit cards cost on average right around 1.6% to below 2%. When you're using Square, because they charge you that flat 2.6, it's easy to keep track of, but ultimately they're profiting almost 1% to 0.5% every single time someone runs your credit card at the store. So what we do differently, instead of charging you a flat rate and making the billing simple, we tier the rates. So if you use a debit card, we're going to process it and get it cleared and cost you as a business closer to that 1.6, 1.7 mark. If you're taking a personal credit card, that's going to clear at right around the 2% mark. So that way, when you take the cards that your business is going to be taking a majority of the time, you're not going to be billed 1% higher than what you really should. And that's what actually helps the business owner save money, is that we actually will custom tailor the rates to the exact card types you're taking and not giving you this one size fits all solution. That's one way you can help them save them money if they're using someone like Square. If they're not using Square, their processor has a bill that shows them exactly what the rates are charging, and we can help them save money that way. So
that's great. No, that's awesome. Well, I do want to challenge any business owner, if you're watching, obviously later, make sure you ask these questions to Matthew about what would work for you. The customer's always right, and in this case, the business owner is always right. So you want to make sure that you bring the needs specifically to Matthew. Okay, so Matthew, I love this question. It's like one of my favorite questions. Yeah. What is the vision? What's the big vision? Well, it's maybe short term and long term for Affinity 24.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think the vision, we have our mission statement on our website. Obviously, the biggest, almost ultimate vision is being able to provide service for people in this industry, specifically for credit card processing, in a way that's going to be set apart from the other providers. A lot of times when people get set up, they go with their bank because their bank provided them their checking account, and it's very simple to get it set up that way. But their bank or some other third-party processor is going to set them up. They're going to charge them setup fees. They're going to charge them monthly minimums. They're going to charge them if they want to cancel without reaching the full term of the contract. Let's say they lock them into a 2-3 year contract and they want to cancel, they'll charge early termination fees. So there's a lot of things that these providers do that we just don't find ethical in terms of business practices. Sometimes they'll even sign you up at a certain rate, and then 6 months later, they'll raise the rate on you when there's really no justifiable reason to do it other than being greedy to get more money out of the account. So what we do differently is we don't have any setup fees. There's no cancellation fees. We're a month-to-month service. We provide the rates we provide you with. They're locked. They can only go down upon loyalty to us as your provider, and then upon request of the merchant if they want us to take a look and see if we can save them more money. But really, all those practices are really just a microcosm of a bigger picture, because ultimately our goal, my goal, right, as a person who provides credit card processing solutions, is not to be a credit card salesman. My goal is, and my calling in life, is to preach the gospel and make disciples of all nations. So our mission statement as a company is to be able to use our vocation, and God has allowed us to use our vocation in the workplace for effectual evangelism. So when we go out, every person I set up, I either install over the phone via Zoom or in person. If they're local in Southern California, I'll drive out to them. Sometimes I even fly out if the install is deemed intense enough that they need me to be out there. I'll fly out, I'll install it. We do that for free to help get the business set up, to provide value in that area. But when I'm there in person, we're gonna have conversations. I love being social with people. I like knowing what people think, what they believe, why they believe it, and that gets into the conversation of what we believe and why we believe it, and that we submit to this objective truth that there is a God that created all things, and we're accountable to that God. God loved us so much so that while we're still sinners, he became flesh and dwelt among us and died on the cross. And by the shedding of his blood, we have the remission of sins through faith alone in Christ. So that's the message we're sharing every time we get the opportunity to do so. When we're there installing people, talking to people on the phone. I have some merchants that have, we're on the phone servicing them and just doing things like that. So it's more so the understanding that, yes, we're in this industry and we're going to provide you great service, but we're going to be accountable to our Father in heaven. And that's where the ultimate long-term picture is, really the expansion of the kingdom. And that, again, kind of plays back into the whole political realm of things. When there's things that are going on in society that are not in accordance with God's truth, we want a desire for God's truth to prevail in that society. So we're going to support lost you.
Oh, I think you're back. Okay, sorry.
There we go. Perfect.
Might be our connection for a second. Well, that's amazing. What a great vision that is for the future. And I'll tell you what excites me so much is that there is a family-based business that's looking out for people financially. I mean, that's awesome, man. Who couldn't be fired up about that? Okay, well, final question for you, and we're gonna have many more of these to come. Why do you believe in Businesses for Liberty? Why do you believe in what we're doing to bring those values all over the country?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, you guys are providing just this real network of like-minded business owners, entrepreneurs, where we can be able to have aligning principles, yes, but be able to do business with each other. Just back to that point where you're saying with where's your dollar going? Your dollar spent is really the biggest vote you can have. And I may have talked to you about this, and I know I've talked to other people I know about this. But as soon as the dollar is no longer there for these major corporations, these major agendas that are supported by our government, by major corporations, those things will cease as soon as the dollar is not there. A large majority why they support certain things is because it's easy to be able to pander and cater to those views because there's a dollar to be earned. So when we as believers can have this network with each other, we can allow us to do business with one another, allow each other to grow, and allow our dollar to be spent wisely and in good stewardship with the people who have the aligning values for this country and ultimately for the gospel.
Amen. Amen. Well, let me just tell you all so much. I'm so proud of what Matthew is doing. He gives me a lot of hope for California, the Golden State, and I really do pray that we can make an impact in Southern California, all over that area and all the way up to Northern California and beyond. I told Matthew I'd love to do a Coffee for Liberty with him out there in Southern California. So if you're a business owner and you're in California and you see this, get behind Businesses for Liberty. Help us rally behind people like Matthew. And listen, if you're not a business owner, we need you involved as well. For every business owner, we need 100, customers for liberty, consumers for liberty. At the end of the day, we're all consumers to some level. So when you go on our database and you see all those businesses in different categories, shop from them. Go to them. Don't go to the big box office places, which, by the way, don't really care about you. They don't care how your days go on in your name, or Matthew cares. Matthew wants to get to know you. He wants to get to know your family, what's going on. So make sure you do business with Matthew Logan and Affinity 24, and much more to come from this great patriot. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Eric.